Hey guys, it's Story. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the best and worst books of 2018 for me. I'm going to be doing top 3 for each of them and then some honorable mentions for best books of 2018. I'm so excited to do this video. I actually did this one last year too. I created my channel towards the end of 2017. I wasn't fully into reading in parts of 2017, so that video was kind of like, it was accurate, like they were still the best and worst books for me, but I didn't read as much as I did this year, so I feel like this video is like a little bit more accurate, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'll also link that video down below if you want to see it. It's kind of cringeworthy because I was still, you know, getting used to the camera and like just started my channel, so like I don't really want you guys to watch it, to be honest, but I'll link it down below anyways. So to end on a good note, I'm gonna start with the worst books of 2018 for me, and I'm going, oh wow, did I just scrape my wall? I'm just gonna move to the side over here so I can display them on the screen for you guys. Number 3 on this list is the least worst book I read. And I feel like I might get a little bit of hate for this, but it is The Wicked Deep by SheIn. Here's the thing, I gave this book 3 stars, so you're probably thinking, oh, it must not be that bad if it's like an average book. There were some things I liked about this book, but there were a lot of things I didn't like. First off, I listened to the audiobook. I did not read this physically, and that might have been where I went wrong. I did like the narrator of the audiobook, and I did love the setting and the whole like mood of the book. It's very like witchy. It's placed in like in Washington near the ocean where it's kind of coldish, rainy, and like I love that whole setting, obviously, because if you guys don't already know, Twilight is my favorite book of all time. I'll probably get hate for that too. It's fine. I love that setting so much, and I think that's honestly the only reason why I really gave it 3 stars. Like, I love the mood, I love the setting of the book. This book was so predictable. Starting this book, there's like so many things you could like predict happen, but you kind of think like they probably won't happen because they're so predictable. No, it's gonna happen. I'm trying to not like spoil it. I don't think I am, but it's like just like the most predictable things happen. And I guess I just expected more from this book. Since I don't listen to audiobooks very often, I just like gave this kind of high expectations because so many people loved this book, and I felt like it was just gonna be really good, and I did like enjoy it. But sometimes, honestly, having to listen to the audiobook kind of felt like work. Like, I felt like I was finishing it just to finish it. I didn't really like any of the characters. I didn't like where the plot went. Towards the end, there is like a plot twist, I guess you could call it, that I didn't expect. There's just one, and I did really like it. But I mean, when I finished the audiobook, I was just like, what did I even just listen to? Like, I feel like I kind of wasted my time. But like, there was some enjoyment to it. So I don't know. Looking back, I probably would give it more of like a 2.5 star instead of 3. But as you can probably tell, I typically rate books on the higher end of the scale. I don't rate books 3 stars that often. I do a lot of like 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5 stars. I guess I'm just like not as critical as some people here on BookTube, so that's why it was one of my least favorite books, but it still like got 3 stars from me. The second worst book I read this year was Equilibrium by Zach Gray. I think that's the author. I'm not exactly sure. This is a poetry book. I had a big poetry kick this year for a couple months. I read like 8 poetry books in a row. I love modern poetry. That's really the only poetry I do read. This is one of the books I read. I believe I gave this book 2 stars. Yeah, I gave this book 2 stars. Again, it's really, really low for me. There were a couple poems I liked, but I think that was really it. Just like a couple poems out of the whole book. It is a very short book. I believe I got it off of Amazon. When I went through this poetry kick, I literally bought like 8 books off of Amazon. They were all like pretty small poetry books. I could not relate to this book at all. The whole theme of it is equilibrium, so like balance, and I thought that was such a cool theme, but it just wasn't executed very well in my opinion. Poetry is so subjective. I think that's the word I want to use, right? I don't know. People like poetry depending on how it relates to them. I think I just could not relate to this at all. Like, I can't even think in my head like what this was about. I really have no idea. I just remember there was an equilibrium or like balance theme to it, and it wasn't done very well. And that's literally all I remember. Like, I can't even think of anything else to say because I can't remember what it was even about. And I did give the book away, so I can't like go back to like look at it. So the worst book I read in 2018 was 10 Things I Can See From Here by Carrie Mack. If you've been following me for the past year, you knew this was coming. I have ranted about this book probably in 4 or 5 different videos. I just did not like it. And it's funny because before I read this book, I was thinking, oh, I probably won't have worst books of 2018 because I'm just like, I enjoy so many books and I'm not a critical reader. And then I read this book. I gave this book 1 star and that's really bad. Like, you can't really give a book 0 stars, so I feel like 1 star is the worst possible rating you could give it. I would give this book like 0.00001 star if I could. I feel like that's really mean. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's the honest to God truth. I picked up this book because I heard it had a theme of anxiety. The main character has like really bad anxiety, and I really wanted to read a book about anxiety because I have anxiety myself, and I just wanted to read about it, kind of like get someone else's like perspective on it. And since this book, I have read books about anxiety that have been really good, which I'll mention in a second. I don't even know what to say about this book. Like, everything about it was horrible. Just everything was not good. And the writing was really, really bad. A middle schooler could read this. It's more like a children's book because writing just wasn't good at all. And there is no plot at all. There's not a plot. It's not there. Our main character goes to visit her dad and his family while her mom is off on a trip with like her boyfriend. Like, moves there for a couple months, and it's just like a lot of family drama. And our main character is just now realizing that she is a lesbian, I believe, and she meets a girl. She falls in love with her. I feel like I just spoiled it, honestly, because that's really the book. In Canada, dealing with like family drama, and she meets a girl, and the whole point of the book is like her anxiety, but like her anxiety isn't even a part of the plot. There's just like, there is literally no plot. Like, what happened in this book? Because I don't know. I really don't know. The characters have nothing to them. They have no characteristics at all, other than our main character completely consumed by anxiety, which I feel like some people probably have the anxiety she does have, and maybe they can relate to this book. But I feel like her anxiety was kind of like the stereotype of anxiety, which is kind of hard to explain. You just kind of have to read it yourself, but I don't want you to read it, so I would not recommend this book. I was like scared of dying. Like, her every movement, she thought of how she would die, and it like kind of freaks her out, gives her anxiety. She'll like have attacks and stuff because she's so afraid, just like consumed by fear of dying. And I feel like it was more fear than like anxiety. And even just like when she's talking to the girl that she falls for, like, she doesn't even have anxiety to like talk to her. She has anxiety that she's gonna die. I don't know. I don't know. It's like the author tried to make it seem like she is consumed by anxiety, but then like other parts of like your normal life that would make you anxious, she wasn't anxious. But it wasn't like an obvious kind of like the author did it on purpose. It was just like the author doesn't fully understand anxiety, which I'm not, trying to like bash the author or anything. Maybe she does have anxiety, I don't know. Overall, the anxiety would just felt like kind of like the stereotype to me. I don't know, I just could not relate to it at all, and honestly, it made me think like I'm probably not going to pick up any more books about anxiety because I feel like I can't actually relate to them if they're not done well. But anyways, I did pick up Turtles All the Way Down, and I love that book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. That is the best representation of anxiety I have ever read. I really have nothing good to say about this book, which is really sad. But that's why it's the worst book I read this year. Now on to the best books of 2018, which I'm so excited to talk about and rant about. You guys have seen me talk about these books throughout the year. Like, a couple of them you definitely should be expecting because they're very obvious. But a couple honorable mentions that I'm probably not even going to put on the screen because they're very popular books. You probably already know what they look like, at least some of them. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book. It was 5 stars for me. If you haven't heard the plot of this book, you must not be on BookTube very often. But I loved that book. Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Again, very popular book. Gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I thought I was going to give it like 4 or 4.5 the entire time I read it, but once I got to the end, I was like, no, this was a good book. Love this book. I think I technically read this, did I read this at the end of 2017? Holy crap, I think I did. I finished it on the plane back to Indiana before New Year's, so I technically can't include this, but Oh well, I mentioned it. Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell. This is a spiritual book, and I don't mean religious, I just mean spiritual book, like motivational, where you are in the world type of thing. I listened to the audiobook, but I really want to read it physically because I enjoyed it so much. This was 5 stars for me. I'm gonna stop saying these books were 5 stars because obviously they were all 5 stars for me. But yeah, I've talked about this book a lot, so I'm not gonna keep talking about it. And then the last honorable mention is Uncaged Wallflower by Janae Cecilia, I believe her name is. This is a poetry book. It was my favorite poetry book I read this year, and like I said, I was on a poetry kick, and this was just the one I related to the most. I saved the most poems from it, and I just really enjoyed it. But yeah, let's move on to the top 3 best books I read this year. Like I said earlier, I feel like I'm gonna get a tad bit of hate because of this, but not actual hate, because no one really hates on BookTube, but like I've just seen a lot of things about this book recently that makes me sad. As most of you know, I had a reread this year. I'm still in the middle of my reread. Video for that reread is coming very soon. I have vlog footage. I have like 3 hours of vlog footage, so it's taken me a while to edit it, but it is almost done. And at number 3, and there's a reason it's number 3, so y'all aren't confused, but that is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. As you can see, I have tabbed the crap out of it. I'm actually gonna cut these tabs so they're not like sticking out so bad. My baby. The reason I'm putting this as number 3 is because I wanted to put the other books higher because I did read those books for the first time, and this is a reread. And yes, this is my favorite book series of all time, so obviously it's like the best book I read this year, but I don't know, I just wanted to put it at the bottom of the list because I talk about Twilight all the time, and it was a reread. I just love Twilight so much. I know it's very problematic. I have realized the problems in it. If you watch my Twilight vlog that's coming up soon, you'll hear me rave about this book and you'll hear me rant about this book. It's a very bipolar type of video because I can now see as an adult all the problems with this book, whereas when I first read it in middle school and it became my favorite series then, I did not see the problems at all. Now, I still really, really enjoy myself when I read this series. It's just, I can't stop turning the page. I just love it so much. And I feel guilty for loving it because so many people hate it, but you know what? I'm not feeling guilty anymore, and I'm not gonna apologize. This is my favorite series of all time. It's always going to be. I'm halfway through New Moon right now. I took a little break after reading this, and then it's just taken me a really long time to read New Moon because of obvious reasons. Bella's very, very depressed, and it's just hard to read. Yeah, you guys should really check out my Twilight vlog when it comes up so I can like fully explain the highs and lows of, you know, rereading this book. But obviously I did really enjoy myself. I tabbed the crap out of it. This is the first book. This is the second book I've ever tabbed. I've tabbed Milk and Honey because I really like that book, but this is so much fun. Oh my god, I'm gonna tab books more often so I can do this. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk too much about it because you all know what Twilight's about, and I talk about how much I love Twilight all the time, so. For the ones out there that really, really can't stand Twilight, you know what, I'm just gonna move on to the next one, and the people that do want to hear me talk about Twilight, you can watch my Twilight vlog coming up. It's gonna be called I Read Twilight 10 Years Later, so be on the lookout for that. It will be my next video, probably. The second best book I read this year I don't have with me because it was a library book, and that is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I have a full review on my channel of this book. I will link it down below. I'm actually not doing reviews on my channel anymore because I just don't think people really watch them. I enjoyed making them, but I felt like I only did reviews because like it was just what you did. It's just what a book reviewer does. They do reviews. But I just don't feel like they're very relevant videos anymore, so I'm not doing them anymore. But anyways, I love The Hating Game. This book introduced me to the new adult genre. I love new adult now. I haven't read that many new adult books because I need more recommendations, honestly. I just don't know which ones to read. If you know of any books that are like The Hating Game, please recommend them to me down below or tweet me on Twitter. My bookish Twitter is at StorryGBooks. But anyways, this book is about a girl that works for a publishing company, and she has a rival named Joshua Templeman. What is her name? That's really sad I can't remember the main character's name, but I can remember the love interest name. We're like equal at this publishing company named Joshua, and they hate each other because they're kind of like, they both worked for publishing companies that were rivals, and then they merged together, the two companies did, and so they're at equal positions, but there's promotion going on that they both want to go for, so they're like competing against each other, and they already hate each other. They play these little hating games, which is why it's called the hating game. They're really fun to read about, and of course there is sexual tension between them, and throughout this book it just like builds up and builds up and builds up until it's the hate to love trope. It is the best book out there that does the hate to love trope though. If you love that trope, you are going to die for this book. That is literally my favorite trope. Anyways, yeah, this book is just, it's so crazy because I would never pick up this book if I hadn't seen it on BookTube. I can't remember the people that were talking about it back then, but they just raved about this book and raved about this book, and I was like, I don't get it, but like, I'm curious, and I saw it in my school's library, and I was just so curious about it because everyone, you know, talked about it all the time. So I picked it up on a whim, and when I started the first chapter, I knew immediately this was a different type of book because I read fantasy. I read fantasy probably like 60-70% of the time, and then I read contemporary 30% of the time during like the summer. I don't know why I'm like that. I will read like a mystery or a thriller every now and then, but it's very rare. I mean, this is a contemporary, but it was just like, the writing is so different. It's very like just entertaining and fun and like quirky type of writing, and our main character is very like quirky. I kind of hate that word because I feel like I don't say it right, but I knew immediately it was different writing, it was a different book, and I felt very like out of my comfort zone, but literally at the end of chapter 1, I was hooked. And so I was like, I just gotta keep reading. So I remember the first time I sat down to read this book, I read like the first 6 chapters, which I don't do that, like ever. I'll read like the first couple and like come back to it, but I was just hooked, and I just found myself, this is like why I enjoy reading so much, but I found myself when it wasn't in my hands, like I wanted it in my hands, and when I wasn't reading it, like I needed to read it to know like what was gonna happen next. Looking back, like not that much really happened in the book, but everything about it was just like so good that like you just kept wanting to read it, and those are the type of books I love. And so I'm really happy I read this book. It introduced me to a new genre, which I really want to get into. I'm definitely going to be picking up Sally Thorne's newest book. It comes out this year. I believe it's called 99% Mine. And if it's anything like The Hating Game, I know I'm going to love it. I feel like Sally Thorne's going to be one of my new favorite authors. But if you're wanting to try a new genre and you love the hate to love trope, or you want a good like contemporary, a good like tension type of book where there's just like a bunch of like sexual tension, I guess, going to love this book. It was so freaking good. If you want to hear me talk more about it, then just go watch my review. It is spoiler free, so if you haven't read it yet, you can watch it. But yeah, moving on to number 1 on this list. This is the best book I read in 2018. I have raved about this book so much on my channel. Definitely like when I read it in the summer, there were like 3 videos there in a row where I just could not stop talking about it. So if you have followed me this year, at least since the summer, you're gonna know what this book is. And that is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. I love this series so freaking much. It is my newest favorite fantasy series. You know, I love Twilight and Harry Potter, but this is like my 3rd favorite series so far. We'll see like what the 3rd book does. The 3rd book is anything like Legendary. I am so ready for that book. Like, I cannot wait. God, this book was so freaking good. It's about a girl who has a sister. She lives on this island, which is kind of like ran by her abusive father, and she gets a ticket to a magical game called Caraval, which is ran by a famous magician called Legend. And she's heard stories from, you know, her mother and her grandmother since they were little about this game, and they've wrote to Legend every year until finally he replies and gives them tickets to the game. So it is a fantasy. There is like a magical type of system. It's not as like big as like the Harry Potter universe or anything like that. Especially in Caraval, we don't really know much about the world. But Legendary, oh my gosh, Legendary just opens like so many new doors. It expands the world so much. It expands the magic system. We meet so many new characters that, oh my god, I just fell in love with. There's a character in here called Jax. He's like a villain, and he is literally my favorite villain of all time, probably behind Voldemort, I would say. Yeah, I would say Voldemort's probably my favorite villain of all time. Jax is very close because I literally fell in love with him. I don't know if she does this on purpose because I don't see a lot of people talking about Jax. I see a lot of people talking about Dante in this book, which is the love interest for Donatella, which that's not like a spoiler or anything. But I shipped Tella and Jax way more than Tella and Dante, which is saying something. I feel like I'm definitely like the unpopular opinion in that, but I love Jax so much. Like, I want Funko Pop of him, or like a candle, like a themed candle of him, or like a poster or something. I don't know. I want something bookish revolving around Jax, and I just don't see them anywhere. This book is from Tella's point of view, which is our main character in the first book, Scarlett's sister. So it's her turn to play Caraval. I'm pretty sure both the sisters play Caraval in the second book. Anyways, the reason I love this book so much, or this series in general, is because it's just so much fun. If you want to read a book that literally, like, you just have fun, like, it entertains you, you're going to love this. This book has made me realize those are the types of books I want to read. Like, it really has made me re-fallen in love with reading, because I don't want to pick up books to review them. Like, no offense, but like, for my channel, there's been a couple books I've picked up just so that I can review them for my channel, and I just don't want to do that anymore. It takes out the fun in reading. So I pick up books now that I think I will thoroughly enjoy and have fun with because of this book and Caraval, because it's just, the magic system is just so unpredictable. And that's what I love about it, because it's like every page you just don't know what's going to happen. At the end of every chapter is just like, what happened, and you have to go to the next chapter. Everything is so up in the air, and I literally have a page full of theories about this book. Let me see if I can find them real quick. This is my page-long kind of like theory discussion about this book, which I would love to get into, but like, I feel like the only people that could watch that video is people that have read Legendary. I want to discuss it because I talked about a lot of theories in my Caraval video, which I will link down below too. It was the first book review I did on my channel, was over Caraval. One or two of these theories actually became correct, but as you can tell, there's a lot of them on here because the book is just so unpredictable. Like, what I love so much about it. Like, I want to read books like this all the time. It's the only type of book I want to read, honestly, where it's so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. Everything's so up in the air. The characters are kind of everywhere, but like, still have characteristics and like motives, and you fall in love with them. The world still isn't fully explained in this book. In the next book finale, we're really gonna see what the world is and what these characters are capable of, and I'm just so excited. The negative reviews I see about these books, a lot of them have to do with the writing. The writing is one of my favorite things. I think it's so just like magical and unpredictable and very fantasy-ish. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like if you're not the typical fantasy reader, maybe those are the people that didn't like this book, because her kind of writing is very, you know, kind of over dramatic and like magical and like using, you know, fancy big fantasy words type of thing, and I love that. Like, that's the type of stuff I'm into, so I just love this book so much. Honestly, talking about it makes me want to reread it. But yeah, I can't rant about this book enough. I talk a lot about it in my wrap-up and my summer wrap-up. I talked about it in both of them because I forgot when I read it. That's how much I love this book. But yeah, if you haven't given Caraval the chance yet, let this be your sign to give it the chance. If you're the typical like fantasy reader like me and you like fun, unpredictable types of stories, then you're going to love this book. There's very strong characters, there's world building in this, so much mystery, like so much mystery. I think my favorite genres is fantasy and mystery, because I just love mystery, but when I read a typical mystery book, there's always something missing. And I think because it doesn't have that fantasy element that just like kind of brings it to the next level. This book is so much better than Caraval. It is. Like, I thought I loved Caraval, but I read this book and I was just like, she just took it to a whole another level. So I'm really curious to see if the third book is going to take it to an even bigger level. Just like, I can't even think of what she's going to do. And it makes me so excited for the new book to come out. And that's like the best thing about reading, the joy of reading, is stuff like that. Like, not being able to wait for the next book because it's just so good. Actually have a new series that's still like coming out right now that I'm obsessed with. It just makes me love reading again. And so obviously this is going to be the best book of 2018 for me. If that is not a good enough explanation, I do not know why. Also, this book is signed, girlfriend. Stephanie Garber has noticed me on social media not once but twice, so we're like best friends at this point. Okay, Okay, those are the best and worst books of 2018. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, y'all.